We are back with another episode of the Nintendo Pipeline Podcast this week. It's all about Metroid Dread today. So I'm CMM, I'm going to be your host, and with me I have...
One Up Muffin, but you can call me Jared.
And today we have a special guest to talk all things Metroid. Could you introduce yourself?
I am Skipper93653, as you have probably seen me in the Discord server. But you can just call me Skip or Toby. That'll be fine.
Alright, cool. So, yeah, as I said, today we're all about Metroid Dread. Just to give you guys a heads up, we're going to start with a brief spoiler-free conversation, and then we're going to dive, headfirst into every spoiler imaginable. So, please be warned, I will announce when we are transitioning into spoiler territory. If you haven't played yet, stop listening to this and play it.
No holding back after the spoiler point.
Yeah, after the spoiler point, we will be going, full ending, everything, nothing's off limits. For anyone who's not aware, I don't know how you wouldn't be, but Metroid Dread released earlier this month. It is the first new 2D Metroid game in 15 years? 19 years? 19
Almost,
years.
Yeah, 19 years.
Yeah, 2002 was Fusion.
Yeah, so in terms of, non-remakes. It's by Mercury Steam, just like Samus Returns. It has a lot of really cool movement. All of us have played it, I believe, to completion at this point, yeah? I know Skip has.
Twice.
So I guess, we'll start with you, Skip. What is your overall feeling about the game having completed it?
Phenomenal. I loved every second of it. It's just, I'm so happy that they managed to pull off creating such an incredible game and satisfying Metroid fans after 19 years of waiting for a new 2D Metroid and being a sequel to Metroid Fusion. Honestly, it's just a miracle, really, that this happened. Or the fabled or mystery Metroid Dread, from the rumors from 15 years ago, and then it coming out and it being absolutely fantastic is just best case scenario.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, One Up?
I also thought it was fantastic. I've played most of the other 2D Metroid games except Samus Returns. But I think this might be my favorite of all of them. I loved the movement. I loved the just momentum of the game. It just gets you going. I feel like I barely got stuck at this one at all, and I was enjoying it until the very end.
Yeah, and since you mentioned it too, yeah, so Mercury Steam handled Metroid Samus Returns on 3DS as well, and this game kind of pretty much evolves everything that was introduced into that game. If you haven't played it and you enjoyed Dread, I'd encourage you to check it out. It's not as well developed as Dread is, but it's still very good. For my part, yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. This is one of those rare games that I binged through. One of those ones that I just couldn't really stop playing. It's so good on every level, presentation wise, control wise, movement wise. The bosses are great. I'm sure we'll get into that. It just feels perfect, and it feels very intuitive. Probably the best feeling 2D Metroid,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree.
So let's get into that first. So this game has a lot of stuff going on with its movement, a lot of fun stuff. So you have the free aim. If you hold the L button, you can kind of do a 360-degree aim for your weapons. There is a new slide move that you have before you have access to Morph Ball that lets you kind of go under some of those one block gaps. And then besides that, the Aeon powers from Metroid Samus Returns are back, which, if you're not familiar with those, you have essentially a meter, and you can use a couple of special moves with said meter that you have to wait for the meter to fill back up again to use. And then there's also the counter system, which was introduced in Samus Returns. You can time a hit of the X button when an enemy is attacking you to kind of get this super shot on them that typically will just destroy them. One up. What did you... I know you hadn't played Samus Returns. I'm kind of curious. How did you feel about the movement options and some of the new stuff that's in Dread?
Yeah, so before I say that, was the slide in Returns or is that new here?
Slide is non-returns, it's new, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's new.
Yeah, so I played like 5 seconds of Returns at like a Best Buy kiosk, and like my immediate reaction was like, "Oh, this feels really nice," and Dread feels even better. It's like I really like the free aiming, even when you're not holding down the left trigger or left button.
Yeah.
You can still aim wherever you want. Like you're not locked to the 8 directions that Samus used to be.
Yeah, it's smooth.
But no, it feels great sliding around, going from like slide to morph ball later on. Jumping feels great. Like they really just nailed the feel of like it feels like Metroid evolved, not like something completely different.
Yeah. How about you, Skip?
I would agree. Like, the control options are very good. I did play Metroid Samus Returns. Much more. It was definitely a recent playthrough. I started the playthrough before Dread, but then Dread got announced while I was playing through it. So I was like, oh, perfect. And so I was already introduced to stuff like the free aim and the counter. And after playing Dread, it's really, you can tell that how far Mercury Steam has come for like just adjusting and tweaking how they work and just making it a better play experience.
Yeah, I mean they've evolved a lot of the ideas from Samus Returns, both like mechanically and even like I would say boss wise as well. They've kind of evolved a lot of that stuff. Even something as simple as like in Samus Returns, you can't easily aim up and down while running in that game. In Dread, it's more like it's a bit more free flowy. You have more control.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of power ups in this game. We're not gonna at this point we're not gonna spoil anything, but I think at this point everyone knows that the speed booster is here. I wanted to touch on this for a bit because Speed Booster is the love and the bane of every Metroid player's existence. Speed Booster and Shine Spark puzzles. We won't get into anything specific right now, but I personally thought one of the things that was most improved to me over other Metroid games and was the Speed Booster in Dread. It was not in Samus Returns, so this is kind of like...
That makes sense, because it wasn't in 2.
Yeah. But it feels so good here, and it kind of is what allowed me to go for 100% so willingly.
Yeah. It feels very, feels like it has weight to it more than before. Like in Super Metroid, it feels kind of like light. You're just running, and then you're going super fast, and it's very, like, not comical, but it's very... I don't know, it's a little silly, and this one feels like you're charging up something, and then when it kicks in, you're like, bam!
Yeah.
Feels nice.
Yeah. I like how you keep your speed booster in more situations, like you can keep it while wall jumping, and I like how it transfers through the sliding, like it just all flows really well, and the puzzles benefit from it, and I just love how it was all designed.
Yeah, there are mechanical changes to how Speed Booster works in this game that are different from previous games, and I think pretty much all of them make it better. The Game Boy Advance...
Also,
go ahead.
Also, shine sparking downwards are finally...
that's true.
That's just... it took them so long, but shine sparking downwards, brilliant.
If you're not super familiar with the Speed Booster mechanic, essentially you run for a set period of time, and then you kind of go into this boost phase. And once you're in this boost phase, you can basically like run through enemies, you can run through special blocks and stuff like that. But if you press down on the analog stick, Samus stores the charge. She kind of like glows purple, and that's what a Shine Spark is. Once you have the shine stored, if you press the B button and then a direction, there's a couple different ways to activate it. She essentially will like launch in that direction, and that's required for a lot of the puzzles in the game for some of the hidden items, and it's a very satisfying mechanic. And it's also used, you can use it for traversal, and you can also use it to get items early, which is another very cool thing about Dread. That actually I would like to move into briefly. The world design in Dread. This is the biggest map for a 2D Metroid game ever. Like,
Yeah.
it's enormous.
Yeah, it makes sense as well after all these years. Like, technology handle bigger maps, so might as well take advantage of it.
How did you guys feel about the game's world and the map, having played through it? I would say that's probably one of the most important things about this genre.
I thought this was the Metroid that felt the most like being on a continuous planet than some of the other ones. Like, when I first played Super Metroid as a kid, before I knew better, when you were traveling between different areas, I wasn't sure if they were like different like planets, if they were different like parts of the world. It just felt like very abstracted when I was moving between like the teleporter zones. But this feels very cohesive. I love taking like the tram to like the to some of the other areas, like the water area the first time, without spoiling anything. But like that's so cool with the rain and stuff. And you're coming into the place.
Yeah, it
They
feels
do great
very
transitions.
connected. Yeah, it feels very, very connected, and I like that about this game.
Yeah, it's interesting because so most Metroid games, right, you have like an elevator that'll bring you to an area, and that's kind of your only entrance and exit point. But Dread, you have elevators. You have the teleporters that are from Samus Returns that are kind of just for convenience, and you actually have trams, which are new. And it's a sideways moving elevator, but the point is that each area has multiple entrance and exit points, which I thought was awesome, and I think is necessary because the maps are so big.
It makes it less frustrating, especially since this game doesn't have like the teleport to any save room like Castlevania has. So you really need ways to get between the areas easily, or else it'll be frustrating.
Yeah. How did you guys feel about the map design and navigation in general, beyond any kind of like, entrances and exits to other areas?
Well, the map design, I quite liked it. I like the fact that there's a very it's subtle, but it's a very clearly like laid out path you can see. So you get a power up, and then soon after there may be like a teleport or an elevator. You take it, and then your next progression items like really soon afterwards. So, but I also like the fact that how you can go off the beaten path still, and like do some cool tricks to get stuff early and whatnot, and just it's very well designed where there's a clear defined path for people who don't really know what else to do but know where to go clearly because here's a teleporter, and but yeah, there's some people that have more experience with using the items and like that, and try and exploit their way through the map, and it's just very, very well designed.
And
As someone who, sorry.
I was just say, and you.
Oh yeah, sorry. As someone who doesn't know like a lot of the item stuff or how to get stuff early, as someone just playing it regularly, some of the parts do feel a little bit linear. Again, like I'm sure that you can get around that, but as a casual Metroid player, which I do want to like try out some of the other stuff later. But yeah, some of it seems like, there's only one way to go here, or there's only one way to go there. But overall, I do still really like how it was designed. It's really smartly gets you from one place to another, and I think as a more casual Metroid player, I was never lost in this one. I never had to consult game facts or a YouTube video.
Yeah, I think something that's interesting here is, people, if we talk very briefly about, Fusion, something that people didn't really dig about that game is that it was a bit more linear and more to the point. The game kind of told you specifically where to go. Not in the sense that it'll show you how to get there, but it would show you a spot on the map that you had to go. This game doesn't do that, which I think is an immediate improvement. The game is going to show you where to go, but it's going to trick you into going the correct way, which I think is fun. My only complaint in terms of the world, I appreciate that they went for a unique musical score this time, which was my hope, actually. Samus Returns used a lot of like remixes from other games, which I wasn't a fan of. Every area in ZDR has its own music in this game, but it's a bit low-key for my tastes. It's not melodic, I guess, is my main complaint.
Yeah, that makes sense. The actual environmental tracks in the game, they're not the most memorable things.
Yeah.
Which it works for the game. I appreciate that. It wasn't like distractingly bad or anything. It was just it works, and it's just unfortunate that it wasn't really the most memorable thing. And Metroid normally has, well, lots of people know Metroid for having like pretty good music, like Phandrana Drifts and Prime, Green Brinstar and Super, like stuff like that. So yeah, it's understandable why people may think that Dread soundtrack is just like not as good as the other games, but not in like it's not like terrible or anything.
Yeah. And then the other thing with the map design is, yeah, the game does railroad you at certain points, in terms of like locking doors behind you, or like kind of setting stuff up so that you can't get too far off the path to continue, which some people argue is a really good thing. Other people will say it's the worst thing ever. I don't feel either of those extremes. I thought it was fine. The game does guide you without telling you where to go again. How did you guys? I know One Up, you said you kind of felt like you didn't really get lost at all. I don't know if that's a good thing for you or a bad thing.
No, I thought it was good because I felt like I was still like having a fun time, like exploring and like looking for secret rooms and finding some cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I never felt frustrated, and I don't know. I don't like feeling like I definitely in Fusion there was a point in that game where I hit like a wall, and like that's the linear one.
Yeah.
But I hit some wall of like I just did not know where to go, and I had to like find some like long ass game facts guide and like find the little section I was in.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, I thought I bombed that block and I didn't. One of that situations.
Yeah, it's a real pace breaker, that is, when you have to do that.
So the last thing before we get to the full spoilers section that I just wanted to touch on is the boss battles in this game. Again, speaking generally here, they really worked for me. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, they were really good. They were tough, but like they were very, very fair. Like you just gotta pay attention to their patterns. As soon as you know like what animation it's doing, like then you'll know how to dodge it, and then you'll be able to like ace it. And like even on the loading screen, when you die on a boss fight, it says like, oh, all attacks can be avoided. So just gotta find like that opening, and so I just found it was very fair, and I never felt angry at myself. Well, I did find angry at myself, not angry at the game. I was like, why did I do this? Like, I was never angry at the game. It was always like my fault why I died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt similar. Of the bosses could be really hard, but again, compared to older Metroids, I felt like they never felt insurmountable, or I just had to damage boost through it and just keep firing missiles until like I was at 1 health and they were dead. I feel like I could dodge their stuff and get through it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. None of the bosses don't feel like... I would say that there are a few certain bosses that may feel spongy, but it doesn't feel like, you're just kind of like spamming missiles or whatever until they die. You're still having an actual fight. So before we move on, does anyone have any final spoiler-free thoughts?
I do. I want to go back to audio for a second.
Yeah.
I thought these sound effects and sound design was really great, even if I did not remember a single music track from the game. Like, I still really liked the sounds and sights and how they interacted when I was in there.
Yeah, I would agree. The sound effects and sound design was very good. It was just like the actual music tracks themselves that were just not that memorable. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The actual sound design is very good. One thing I want to briefly mention is a lot of people have been saying it's kind of funny to see this reactions all over the place. Some people say the game is extremely difficult. Some people say it's extremely easy, and it's kind of interesting to see the different camps here. For my part, to me, the most of the difficulty was the actual boss encounters. And the Emmy encounters, which we somehow have not mentioned yet.
That is true.
It's a big part of the game.
Yeah, but the game is pretty generous with its checkpoints and whatnot. It's not like Super Metroid or other games where you die and you restore at the save. So to me, that made this game actually a touch easy for me. A touch. I would love a mode where you would only restart at save stations for the masochists out there like myself.
That would have been good for a thing you unlocked after you beat the game.
Yep, I agree.
That would have been good for that.
Yeah, actually, Emmys, real quick. How did you guys feel about the Emmy mechanic and how it, was executed?
I liked them. They were good. They were very tense. Surprisingly enough, I actually didn't die to one until one of the later ones in the game. But they were still very tense, and I tried like my absolute hardest to avoid all of them to the best of my ability. And then when I get caught, I try and count them, and then fail, and then be angry at myself, and then get them, and then be like, "Oh my god, I actually pulled that off!" And yeah, they were very good. They were very satisfying to defeat as well, and yeah, that was good.
How about you, Jerry?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the weaker parts of the game for me, but I still liked them. To me, they felt a little bit trial and error, but since I didn't have to go back very far, since you just go before the last room you walked in, I was never annoyed for that long. And then, as Skipper said, can we go over the process of defeating them? Is that like a spoiler? Or
that's pretty well shown.
So you get like this. I call it like a Mega Man, like power or not Mega Man, Pac-Man. You get like a Mega Pellet. So you get the power pellet, which makes your gun like super strong, and you deliver a massive blast to their face that has to like charge up and fire, and then they introduce later mechanics on top of that later in the game. But that's how it starts. It's just you have to charge up this big blast while the Emmy is walking towards you slowly, and they slow down as you're aiming at them, which is cool. It makes it tense, and then you fire it, and it's satisfying.
Yeah, it is extremely satisfying destroying one of those. I think it works very well. That's kind of where the name comes from, I guess, the Dread name. I thought it was really fun when you're in those areas and you don't know where to go, trying to kind of route yourself around those areas and figure out where you're supposed to go while also avoiding the Emmys, who are much smarter than I gave them credit for when I was watching pre-release stuff. Those guys will converge on you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
My embarrassing moment is that I pretty much walked into the first one and basically died immediately. Somehow managed to do that. So yeah, overall, highly recommended. If you haven't played it yet, this is where the spoilers start. So you have about
spoiler warning.
You got
no holding back.
You got about 5 seconds to shut this off if you want to play it for yourself before hearing everything, because I'm literally going to go for like the spoiler stuff
like
right now.
Every boss, final scene, after credits, special modes, secret character unlocks.
Oh yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. All right. That's
They're gone.
It. You're gone.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing, the game's story and ending. That whole last hour and a half is just off the wall.
Yeah. Oh my god, That was just, I was like, my mind was like blown. Like, like throughout that whole sequence, was like, what is going on? Like, what? Like, Ravenbeak's like was one of the DNA donors. Like, what is going on?
Yeah,
And
he had a
just,
freaking Darth Vader moment, which was really funny.
Yeah, your father. That was so funny.
yeah, yeah, that was really good.
The part with Adam and the computer, where at the end Adam is like, Samus, you just gotta do whatever I say, cause like I know best. And Samus is like, no freaking way, kablamo.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. I hooted and hollered and clapped and cheered during that scene.
That plot twist was really, really good. Finding out that the Adam you were speaking to was like fake, like it wasn't actually Adam, and like you could, and going back, you can actually tell that it's not, because you're not being called Lady throughout the game. You're always being called by name. So
yeah, there's a very clear tell for it, so it's telegraphed, but most people either overlook it or they're like, oh, it doesn't mean that much.
He's having an off day.
For my part playing through, when he wasn't saying that, I was like, oh, they made Adam less annoying this time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like,
okay.
Adam's less like...
He's less annoying. No, he's still annoying. It isn't him.
He's just walked away somewhere else. We don't actually know what really happened to him, but...
Yeah, he's just like, oh, Samus, you don't stand a chance against that beautiful hunk of a man, Ravenbeak. You're just...
regarding like Adam, the save rooms and the like navigation rooms in this game are so freaking cool. They start out like dark when you go into them, and then when you start saving, the lights turn on, and then in the Adam room you like punch your fist into the computer. It's the style is just out of this world.
And I can't believe I didn't realize while I was playing through that Adam's voice was freaking Tomodachi-like voice.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's so funny.
That makes sense as well, because Tomodachi Life was also EPD7, well, the equivalent of EPD7 as well. So maybe they shared the same kind of text-to-speech technology for it. So
yeah, they're like, hey, guess what? We have this funny voice thing that we use in Tomodachi Life. Let's give Adam this stupid computer voice. I love it.
Yeah.
So then, of course, the final boss is Ravenbeak, and that fight is 4 phases. I died to it a million times.
Same.
And I know, that it was such a good fight, because it's one of those classic fights where the enemy uses your powers against you throughout the entire fight. Like he has Shine Spark. He has the Omega Cannon. He even has like some of the Aeon powers from Samus Returns. Like the
that was cool.
Yeah, that was a cool touch. Then he turns into Sephiroth. It's just that fight. How long did it take you guys to beat him the first time that you played?
Maybe an hour.
An hour.
But I'll be honest, I did look up like a few like, because I didn't feel like replaying it like after I got to like the second stage, and like I didn't know like where I didn't know like what, like my counters weren't like doing anything, or like I just couldn't get to like the next part. I didn't realize that after you counter, you have to immediately start firing, or else it just stops. Counting. So, but like once you like have that boss downloaded, you can pretty much dodge every attack so reliably, and it feels really good.
Yeah. So I streamed my playthrough, so I can like actually go back and tell how long it took me to beat the boss, because like I can go from like the start of the first attempt to when I finished it, and it took about 50 minutes, I think. So
yeah,
it was very satisfying, and as I said before, is that I never got angry at the game for it.
Yeah, I was fighting my Switch's battery life at the end because I play tabletop, and it was like battery was at like 10%. I'm like, please die. I actually had to put it on charge during the credits.
And were you playing on an OLED or?
I'm not. No, I was playing on a launch model. Did either of you? Do either of you have OLED?
No, but I have an OLED TV, and Dread looks fantastic with the blacks, because like it's a dark game, so like it looks phenomenal. So I bet it looks fantastic on the OLED screen.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Nintendo Switch OLED edition.
Yeah.
So this crazy boss fight happens, and then Samus straight up is a Metroid.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
her suit is like this freaky ass like green thing with these like shaggy shoulder pads and like jagged.
It looks like a metal cover. I didn't like it very much, but it looked kind of silly.
Serious? Okay, you're the first person I've heard who has said they did not.
I was like, I
love
want the
that
classic
suit.
suit back. It looks like one of those, like, if you ever played Destiny, it looks kind of like the Hive.
It does look like something more decidedly Western in design. I'll say that much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But I loved that suit. I thought it was so freaking cool.
Yeah.
That whole sequence.
Yeah, just the ending sequence in general was just so good, and just I was like so mind blown throughout all of it. I was like, what the hell? And Samus is a Metroid now, and it's like the brilliant thing is that people after 35 years after calling Samus a Metroid are now right, and it's just
Yeah, it's so funny. Metroid can crawl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that whole sequence, because of course the planet has to explode. So the whole like Ravenbeak getting, I always say possessed, but I don't know if there's a better word for it, by the X, and basically turns into like this weird Ravenbeak Kraid, like mega monster, which I think has interesting implications. And for some reason the planet explodes afterwards. That's the one thing I don't get is why the timer
Yeah, like-
starts. I could see if it was
that's a
like
weird bit.
after the fortress crash lands, but it takes like another like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that is one of the more like confusing things. Like, it's like, yeah, it's just why is this exploding? But time to escape now, I guess.
Yeah,
Samus is like Darth Vader. She destroys a lot of planets.
man. Yeah,
Blows them up.
and like I'm very fine with the planet blowing up at the end of the game if it's very thoroughly explored. One of my original gripes with Fusion before Samus Returns came many years later was I had really wanted another game on SR388 because although it's fun to explore in the original Metroid 2, it's not as fleshed out as like, Zebes was in Super Metroid.
It's very small.
Yeah, so like Metroid 1 you explore Zebes and then Super Metroid is like a deeper, exploration of that environment. So I wanted the same for SR388, so when she crashes the frickin' space station into it at the end of Fusion, I was pissed. Because like I was like I wanted to, still explore that. So I was
Maybe
really
there's like people living there too.
I don't know if there was anyone living there. But I remember at the time what I wanted from a sequel was that when she crashed the station into SR388, that it actually didn't destroy the entire planet. It only took out a chunk, and then you would have to go there to finish off the job. Obviously that didn't happen, but we had Samus Returns, which more kind of deeply explored, or at least gave them a chance to more deeply explore SR388, so I'm more fine with that now, and in retrospect. But
Yeah.
Speaking of Fusion, there's a mid-game twist in Dread that I thought was great, and that is the whole thing with the X-Parasites. Everyone was wondering where would they be, if they'd show up, when they'd show up. And the way that they make them show up is very cool gameplay-wise, too, because it gives a reason for all the enemies in the game to become stronger.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. That was the first part that kind of blew my mind, was that.
Yeah, like them all being quarantined in like a small area. And
Yeah.
And it just and then now they're all broken out, and now every single living thing is now an X. So,
Yeah.
Um,
That scene with they're just all flying out
Yeah.
and flying by, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
And means all the power-ups are different too. Like,
Yeah.
No more power-up balls. You just get the little X blobs.
Well, it's interesting because it's still a mix
Oh, do you still get the mix? I think you mostly see X blobs.
You get some Core X stuff, but then
Okay.
there's stuff like the screw attack that's like an actual item, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, there's 2 core X's that you actually get
Yeah,
after the thing, which is cross bombs and storm missile.
yeah,
And I wonder what the experiment had, because like you never actually got the core X from it,
yeah.
so that just
The,
like kind of burns in the lava.
the speculation I've seen and what makes sense to me is that Experiment had Hyper Beam because of its Hyper Beam like attack that it shoots out of its mouth.
That would make sense.
And the Hyper Beam that you get at the end of the game is a bit different from Super Metroid's Hyper Beam. It's more like just a death laser that you just hold the button down.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that is cool.
so my personal headcanon is that that Core X had the Hyper Beam and perished. The Core X's look very weird in this game, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
they do look really weird, but I like them. I like how they look though.
yeah, they're like neat looking, but like they do not look like the Core X's in Fusion. Um, those are like spiky bubbles, and then these are like Miracle Matter from Kirby 64. Pretty much what I think of those.
Yeah.
So speaking of bosses, what was your guys' favorite boss encounters in the game
Um.
besides
I
Raven
I
Peak?
like.
Besides Raven
Oh.
Peak.
Go first.
Alright. I liked Kraid a lot. Kraid
Mm.
was a really cool encounter. Um. That was the first boss that I died several times on, because I actually didn't die to Corpius at all.
Yeah.
And but Kraid, I died a few times to him.
Same.
His fight was very, very fun though.
Yeah.
I liked it, and it was really fun, and the counter sequence as well when you counter his attack. It's just cool. Like all the counter sequences in this game.
I don't think I countered Kraid.
Did
Yeah.
you not?
I
have to
didn't
see it
in my
again.
fight, but I saw it afterwards and it was very
Yeah,
cool.
I have to see how to do it, because that boss, like, it felt very spongy, but probably because I wasn't countering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The counter sequence was good. I like that.
Kraid was great. I really liked the Octopus Boss. It felt like one of those, like, Dark Souls gimmick bosses.
Yeah.
You had to, like, drain the water on both sides. It was cool. It was clever.
I was
Yeah,
very
I-
stupid with that boss because for
It
a
took me a
while
while.
I didn't realize, despite the game showing you, like literally showing you this stupid thing, I didn't I didn't even notice when it turned green or whatever to drain
I
it.
didn't realize you had to do both sides. Like, I
Yeah.
was trying to, like, get to the other side, like, before I did that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why can't I get there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize I had to do the second time, either. But yeah, that boss was interesting. I like to think of it as like this game's Spore Spawn boss.
Yes, I agree.
Like you gotta have that Spore Spawn boss in a Metroid game, and I guess that's this game's Spore Spawn. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just the sad boss that's really easy to beat as soon as you understand how it works.
yeah,
I might have looked. I forget if I looked how to do that or not, if I figured it out.
I just want it
Yeah.
to be known that today on the podcast we're taking away Muffin's gamer card. Sorry, these are the rules.
No, it's totally fine to look things up. Do not feel bad about looking
Just
things up.
breaking balls.
Did you like the Flappy Bird boss?
I was gonna bring that
Oh.
up. So experiment, the experiment Z57.
yeah. So
Yeah.
57.
So that was the one that we just mentioned with the hyper beam coming out of its mouth. It's part of a really cool sequence where Arteria freezes over, which I really liked that section. The game has fun ways when you have to like backtrack through areas. The game likes to spice them up a little bit, and that's probably the biggest example of it is that whole sequence. So this boss, everyone calls him the Flappy Bird boss because of the attack that he does, where he basically there's this big wind gust, and he sends this like sends these columns of beam attacks with holes in between them, so you have to jump in between the holes to avoid them, and it's a very satisfying sequence.
Yeah.
And for those who may not follow or haven't seen some of the speedrun stuff, this is a boss. Well, now they don't even go through it anymore. But if you are playing through it, you can charge up a shine spark or a speed boost during the Flappy Bird part of the phase, and then one hit kill him with it as soon as it ends.
Yeah.
Do you usually have the shine spark at that point? I forget.
You do, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But,
It's very
yeah,
late
so
game,
cool.
so yeah, you have speed
Yeah.
booster, and then that little
So
time at the
cool.
end, you just start running, you charge it. As soon as you start getting that speed, you instantly charge it, jump, and then shine spark into him when he's poking his head out, and then he's dead. There
He
you go.
just
That's
dies.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's very good.
But that boss, the counters in that boss are really cool too. Like
Yeah, that one is awesome.
that counter feels great, and then he flies you away, and you keep shooting him, and then slams down. It's
Yeah. That boss also hits like a truck. Most of the bosses in this game hit like a truck. And he has those
Flappy
tentacle
Bird part
swipes
killed me multiple times.
where they go from the left and the right, and those were fine. But that one where he has the double, and there's this smaller cone that you can go into. It wasn't the area that messed me up. It was the timing, because he like wiggles his little things before he does it, and I would always jump too early and jump into the tentacles before he swiped.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Great boss.
That part killed me, and Flappy Bird part killed me a few times.
I don't think I died to Flappy Bird, but I did die to the tentacles.
I'm just not good at Flappy Bird.
And then he has the thing where he has his tentacles on like the ceiling or whatever.
and you
yeah,
do
that.
the missile around that.
Yeah, it took me so long to figure out what I was doing there. It took me so long. I'm like, why isn't he dying? And I realise now that when he does that, he's healing. And
I
so when he's doing that,
Oh.
he's healing. So I was like, why is he not dying? And then
Yeah.
then I accidentally shot one of them. And then it went off the wall. I was like, that's what I'm meant to do. Okay, and then
He did feel very spongy the first few times I did it.
It's funny
Yeah.
because a
Even
lot
when
of
I beat him, he
people
was a little spongy.
I've talked to didn't think to use the storm missile on him
I did.
in that. I did. That actually did occur to me. And it's funny because I forgot at several points in this game that certain upgrades existed. Most importantly, the flash, the air flash.
Oh, I used the flash so much for almost every
Everyone
boss.
did, and I played through that whole
Yeah.
goddamn game without using it. So like those Chozo warrior fights before spin boost, I was jumping off the wall to
wow.
dodge those attacks, and I was like, no wonder why I died like 7 times. Got the freaking flash existed. I didn't even use it during Ravenbeak.
oh wow.
I was dodging the stupid when he does the like Omega Cannon stuff, and when those Chozo X messed up warriors do like the black splooge beam. I was dodging those just with the space jump, which meant a lot of the time I was getting hit by them instead and not dodging them.
Yeah, the power up that I forgot about the most was the storm missile.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was definitely the one that I forgot about the most. But all the other ones I remembered a lot at the time. But there was also the Phantom Cloak as well, which
Yes.
I did forget about them lots of times. Probably because I feel like it was kind of underutilized.
It's underutilized.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's used to open a few doors and like.
there's not even that many of those doors in the whole game anyway, and
Yeah.
you can, and with the Emmy, like, I felt like I just did fine running away rather than trying to hide.
Yeah.
So
I
didn't-
did use it during Emmys. I did use it there.
I attempted to
I
use it
sometimes
during
did.
Emmys. Didn't end well usually.
Storm Missile I used a lot. I used that on the Chozo Warriors. That made those fights so easy. Those fights got a lot better once you could just fire a million missiles at them at once.
yeah,
Go ahead.
after the experiment boss, when I remembered about Storm Missile and used them on his like tentacle legs and whatnot, and then that's when I started using them a lot more liberally, and so yeah, that's when I started using them on all like the different boss fights and stuff like that. And it helped a lot.
I used them a lot on Ravenbeak, as did plenty of people. And with with that fight, as you learn it more, or download it, or whatever you want to call it, you find the perfect gaps, especially in flight phase, to use the storm missile. Like it's just
It feels so good.
there's just these certain moves that he does that are just so easily conducive to getting storm missile. And for those who are listening and don't care about spoilers and maybe haven't played the game, to use storm missiles you have to charge your missile. It's kind of like the diffusion missile in Fusion where you charge it, except instead of it being the diffusion missile, it activates the lock-on for the missiles, which I actually liked a lot. I like that that's how that was activated.
Yeah.
The missile upgrades stack like in Fusion, which I think is great. I don't think you need like missiles and then super missile ammo, for whatever.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting though because once you get super missiles, your rate of fire slows.
I didn't notice that.
So you can't pump them out as fast as regular missiles.
Yeah, I
so
noticed that.
Yeah, there's a bit of a trade-off. You never get that back, because the ice missiles just build on top of that.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about the power-ups in this game?
Oh,
There's
you were
a
going to
lot.
explain storm. You were about to explain storm missiles.
Well, I was just saying that you have to hold
Oh.
the button to charge
Gotcha.
them. So
I,
it's
I
you
actually
don't.
want to add something to that.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
kind of like if you ever played Res. It's kind of like highlighting enemies in Res. So once you're aiming the storm missile, it just auto aims on like up to like 5 enemies or 5 parts of an enemy, and it feels very satisfying to get like all those 5 shots off.
Yeah, it's
But
cool
go
that you
on,
can.
power-ups.
It's cool that you can like multi-lock on to the same target, and of course there's the, like storm missile doors, which
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the power-ups in the game. They're all very fun to use, and they're just so they're just fun to use, and I like them, and they work well with both exploration and combat, which I really like. And it's just that I feel like there's like a few times where some got replaced really quickly, like spin
Yeah.
boost to space jump, like that was really
Yeah.
quick.
yeah, super to ice was pretty quick too.
Yeah, I was about to mention that as well. Super to ice is really quick, and I feel like that was like the only time really. But yeah, they were also really fun to use, and I liked them a lot.
I
Yeah,
thought the bombs put too much on one button.
Oh.
Holding it once to do like the what is it, blast bomb? What's that?
yeah,
Cross
the cross bomb.
Yeah,
Cross bomb, and then hold it a little longer to do the power bomb. That was a little like I got tricked up on those a few times.
yeah. Speaking
Well,
about the
I like most
controls,
of the power ups too.
speaking about the controls for the power ups, is it felt very un-Nintendo because it put like every button got like used.
Yeah, this game is
yeah.
very complex control-wise, especially if you're
I got thrown around so much at the beginning.
if you're
Yeah,
like coming from like Zero Mission or something, and you're like, oh cool, new 2D Metroid, and all of a sudden you're using you're clicking the sticks even.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe like the only buttons that don't get used is up and down on the D-pad.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
that's it. That's it. And the right stick doesn't get, like, if you're just moving the right stick, it doesn't get used. But otherwise, yeah, every function on this freaking controller does something. Something I thought that might have made it a little bit easier is if, for the Grapple Beam. So the Grapple Beam, you have to hold ZR to be in Grapple Beam mode, and then you shoot with Y, and you aim with L.
It was clumsy.
I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been better if pressing ZR just shot it. Like
That
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
you
I don't
have
know why
free
it
aim.
doesn't think
Yeah, if you have free aim
Yeah.
and then you press ZR, it would shoot the Grapple Beam. I feel like that was kind of slightly.
Yeah. They could have
Overcomplicated.
done a little better on that front.
Yeah.
I had
There were some times where I was like, I was so thrown about of like, oh, what button's what?
yeah.
for
I
the
would
first,
like I
couple
spaghettied.
hours.
I spaghettied so much, especially with the morph ball, because the morph ball quick button is ZL, and if you're in movement, it's a slide. But if
Yeah.
you're in the air or you're not moving, it turns you to morph ball. But sometimes I'd like double tap it and go in and out of morph ball. Or there's some
Yeah.
spaghetti. There's some spaghetti there. But I do think once you actually learn how it works and you like know what everything does, it flows very well. The only thing
Yes.
I don't care for, and this is not Dread exclusive, this is with Samus Returns as well. With the free aim, it's definitely not as easy to just shoot diagonal missile shots like you would in Fusion or Super or Zero Mission. So, in that sense, it feels very different from those games and maybe even a bit clunky if you're used to those. I think the free aim has other benefits, but specifically shooting missiles at fixed angles, it's harder to do. And that goes for even when you're in the air jumping and shooting a missile, because if you hold the analog stick in the direction while you're shooting the missile, it influences the angle. But if you jump straight up and then just shoot a missile, it will shoot straight forward. And it's not necessarily an impulse that you will have when playing the game to consciously think about shooting a missile that way. Because in previous Metroids, if you're holding, forward, the missile's still going to shoot straight forward. So I would try to shoot them in those one block holes, and it would go slightly up or slightly down.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens sometimes. But yeah.
The another thing, towards the end of the game, it felt more clearly railroady, I think, than the beginning of the game. The part where you're teleport hopping, towards the end of the game, I felt the game was was maybe a little too on the nose, leading you to where to go. Again, it's more of a quibble than anything, but I did notice that while playing, that the last third is a bit more point A to point B. Because something I really liked at the beginning was you had to go back to Cataris to get the Morph Ball after you already went to Dairon, and you have to go back to get the Varia suit in Arteria. And I was like, oh, cool. The game isn't like you have to go back to this area. You just have to figure out you need to go back to it. So I was hoping for more of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else felt similarly.
I actually didn't really notice that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it was very the progression near the end of the game. I guess thinking back on it, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of realise that, but it's a non-issue for me. I didn't really notice it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I still really enjoyed it regardless.
Yeah, I thought it felt pretty similar from the beginning to the end of I do think it wants you to go certain places, but and certain parts are super there's only one way to go. When the planet's frozen over, you can only go one way.
Yeah, I think for that section it makes sense because
yeah, that one makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm kind of two minds on this, but it's a very delicate balancing act, right? You want to let people go around and experiment with stuff, but you don't want it to the point that someone absolutely cannot figure out where the next way to go is, especially due to the much increased map size in this one. So it's this weird balancing of act of how do we let people experiment and still get lost and find stuff, but not make it so open that they are just on a bender for 3 hours doing nothing. I'm more of the person that would be fine if they let things open up more and stuff, but the game does this thing a lot where doors will lock behind you, or there'll be those boxes, those goddamn boxes.
I didn't like those. I thought the Grapple Beam stuff was kind of just,
The Grapple Beam I liked, but it isn't as well integrated into this game as it is in Samus Returns, was my feeling. But that's mostly because you get better power-ups, essentially, than in Samus Returns. You don't have Speed Booster in Samus Returns. So, the mobility of the Grapple Beam is inherently not going to be as good as what that gives you, so you have less reason to use it.
There was, regarding linearness, and being forced to go certain directions, there's that one room that really annoyed me that I fell into multiple times. You fall into this room with only a teleporter, and there's nowhere to go except through the teleporter, and I went into that like twice.
Yeah, that's in Berenia, I believe.
Yeah, I went there 2 times, and I was like, oh no, I'm still stuck.
I believe it's the green teleporter, and so there's a set of pitfall blocks, and there's a set of screw attack blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's Gaveron. Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
So
Yeah.
you either need the screw attack or you need the power bomb.
Yeah.
And I fell in there twice by accident. I didn't have either one, so I just had to walk through and walk back. And that was a little annoying.
The way that I don't even know how to say it, so I'm just gonna go for it. Gaveran, the forest area.
That sounds right.
The way that that area is split up, even in the post game, is a bit annoying.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, there's that stupid box at the beginning. I believe it's either I think it's maybe a spacer or one of those boxes, but basically it falls into this chunk. There's like this one missile up right there, and you have to go around the whole thing to just in the post game just to get back to that.
Some of that's annoying.
And there's
you move fast enough that's not horrible, but
I think the pace of the game and movement helps here. But there's also that other section where it's the morph ball tunnels, and once you fall through a certain area, like the left half of the map is inaccessible.
Yep.
That I found a bit annoying in post.
Some of those should open back up later in the game.
Yeah, like there's those thermal doors and other areas that open and close. In post game, some of them are closed, and some of them have pass-throughs with like the screw attack or power bomb, and others just don't. So it's stuff like that I felt could have used a little bit of tweaking. But overall, I was very happy. We didn't even talk about the map system in this game.
Oh yeah,
the map system is incredibly overhauled from previous games.
Yeah,
I generally liked the map in this game. The thing that drove me crazy is if you expose an item, it stops flashing on the map, and it was so hard to discern if you're looking at icons on the map. You can't tell quickly at a glance if you've already collected the item. You can highlight the items, but the highlight isn't great. It's like a bracket instead of just brightening it.
It's better than nothing. I will say
it is better than nothing.
Feature. Like it helped me when I got lost.
And the markers are great. Like I really like the markers, and I like that it shows you the status of the doors on both sides. I think that was extremely important, especially for this game. But there's just a couple things that I would tweak there that would make that so much less annoying when you're doing cleanup. Particularly the whole, you've exposed an item, now we're not going to flash on the map anymore.
Yep.
Because the item icon is pretty much the same as when you acquire it. It's like
the flashing is so useful.
Yeah.
Like, I use that so much for cleanup. They should just keep it flashing.
I mean, and that's typically what they do in older Metroid games. In older Metroid games, because the map is less detailed, it's just like there's a circle, on the room, which is fine. It's completely fine. And here the flashing is fine. I don't think it's too. In fact, I think it's actually even better because you kind of it's when it flashes, it's not necessarily flashing in a single room, depending on how the map's laid out.
It covers like 2 or 3 rooms.
Yeah, so you kind of like still get to experiment a little bit, and you're not, it's not just like it's definitely right here. But yeah, the pickup icon, I think if you collect it, it's like slightly faded, but like it looks almost identical.
Yeah,
I was very hard to tell. I had to Google that a lot from 100% cleanup.
I was meaning to bring that up because it's so annoying. Like, I feel like they should have just kind of went either way, where it was just like, oh, it's fully not on the map if you collect it, or like some other way. But like having it only slightly fade and it's not really that noticeable on the map. It's just like, oh, I have to select it to find out if I've actually acquired it or not. It's just
it's a lot of
a bit convoluted.
It's a lot of very tedious, like zooming in on the map, moving. Pickup by pickup, acquired.
Yep.
Did I already look at that one?
Yeah.
But again, quibbles, because this game was fantastic. So I guess wrapping up now, I guess each of you guys, if there's any final thoughts you have, or anything that we haven't talked about yet about the game that you'd like to bring up, now would be the time. I guess we'll go with one up first, because I think Skipper and I have a similar one.
I guess just like overall closing thoughts, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say overall this is, as of October 23rd, 2021, this is one of my top 3 Nintendo Switch games. Like, I've never liked a 2D Metroid game quite as much as this one. And it makes me really excited to go back to Samus Returns.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a top 3 for me as well. Skipper,
it's very good.
Is there anything that you want to mention that we haven't mentioned yet as we wrap up?
Well, I'm trying to think now, because I remember, when I was watching some people on Twitch about the game after I beat it, and one thing I noticed with a few of them was that they got the thing that happened a lot was how some of them got cross bombs early, without them knowing it was a sequence break, and I was like kind of confused, like how did you get cross bombs that early? And it's just a thing that made me think about how well the map is designed, where people can still actually think about, oh, maybe if I try this it will work, and then they managed to get cross bombs early, and because I never got cross bombs. I think I got cross bombs like really late, because what I think you're meant to do is that you normally get it like before wave beam, like the wave beam ME. But cross bombs was like literally like the last power up I got before power bombs, and because I literally did not go to that bit of Gavarin until like the very end, because you know in like Hanubia where you have that elevator from Ferenia and it's blocked off by that grapple block. That you unlock from the other side. I got to that bit first, and I was like, what am I meant to do here? There's a grapple block blocking the way, and I was stuck there for like so long trying to think what to do. And then I had to start checking the map, and then I realised that there was that Gavarin bit. And the boss actually ended up being easier, since I had Wave Beam at that point. Wave Beam does more damage, so it was actually ended up being a little bit easier. And but yeah, cross bombs and bombs at the end of the game as well. Oh, well, cross bombs and power bombs. Like that's I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like cross bombs get really underutilized as well. Yeah. Because of how power bombs are just better.
Power bomb effect is really cool. I like that.
That does look really good.
Yeah, I definitely kind of felt like cross bombs came a bit late, but I like the mobility that they offer as well across the 4 block caps and stuff. For me, I just think, once again, like Fusion and Zero Mission, it's awesome that this game has intended sequence breaks. There's a lot of items you can get early, and that are designed so that you can get early. The most notable one being bombs for Kraid, which they have like a whole cutscene like for that, which I think is awesome.
I should watch that. I haven't seen it yet.
It's cool.
But and obviously, Metroid is traditionally a game that is sped run a lot. I think I just used that in the past tense. And people are finding crazy stuff right now. I mean, world record's under an hour and a half at this point, and it's going to be even lower. And so there's both intentional and unintentional stuff. And I think the sign of a really good game is that the abilities give you enough to experiment with, that you can break the game progression or the map progression, and it's still very good, and the game doesn't just like fall apart. So I'm very excited to see how that evolves, especially with some of the new stuff that you can do with some of the power-ups in this game, like gravity suit being a big one, where you can go horizontally underwater now. But anyway, so that's Metroid Dread.
We loved it,
it's
and
a good game.
We definitely loved it, and this truck that's in front of my house right now is probably loving it as well as it blasts by. Have fun editing that one.
It's fine. You can just hear the truck sound. It's not a problem. You've talked about it. That means I don't have to acknowledge it.
Oh yeah, okay. So before we go, couple housekeeping notes. First, if you are listening to this, you probably already know where to find us, but we are on YouTube. We are on Anchor, which means we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Public, is that what it's called? I don't know. Radio something. There's a bunch. Breaker.
A lot. Pretty much any podcast app you would use.
Anything. So if you prefer to listen elsewhere, you can. If you like what you're hearing, please consider subscribing. We'll have more stuff for you mostly every week.
Exciting stuff this month. Mario Party, NSO.
Yeah.
And the Animal Crossing update post.
Yeah.
After we had like a few weeks of it.
Yeah, we had some fun stuff earlier this month too. We also have a community blog, which occasionally gets updated. I'm going to just be upfront with that. It occasionally gets updated. But there are a lot of... there's a lot of stuff on there that is up that's been... if you haven't been on the site before, there's plenty of archive stuff. And we're always looking for people to write pieces for that. So if you are interested, please hit us up. But you can see that at nintendopipeline.wordpress.com. Please hang out in the Discord. We have a Family Boards thread. If you have thoughts on this episode or other episodes, we'd love to hear them. If you have ideas for episodes or questions, anything like that, we would love to hear from you. Lastly, very special thank you to Skipper for joining us today. Skipper, where can people find you if they want to find you?
Well, I have a YouTube channel, which I sometimes upload on. It's kind of infrequent. It's Skipper93653. Just add just add on. If you in the Discord. If you know me in the Discord server, you can just select my name. You'll see all my connections on there, Twitch and YouTube, stuff like that. I stream on Twitch, as I've said. It's just I sometimes do it when I have the time. But yeah, that's my extent on those fronts. I have a Twitter, which Skip93653. So just remove the ER from the name, and yeah, I just like using that name.
Is your Twitch is your Twitch the same as your YouTube?
There's also Skip93653, so remove the ER from my
Sweet.
My normal names, yeah.
Alright, cool. Definitely check out Skipper. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you another time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
It was nice being on.